Colonel Ahmed Urabi or Urabi, widely known in English as Ahmed Urabi or Urabi Pasha, was a nationalist Egyptian and an officer of the Egyptian army, the first political and military leader in Egypt to rise from the Falahan. Urabi participated in a 1879 mutiny that developed into a general revolt against the Anglo-French-dominated administration of Khedive Tewfik. He was promoted to Tewfik's cabinet and began reforms of Egypt's military and civil administrations. But the demonstrations in Alexandria of 1882 prompted a British bombardment and invasion that deposed Urabi and his allies in favor of a British occupation. Early life. He was born in 1841 in the village of Hiryat Razna near Zagazig in the Sharqiya Governorate, approximately 80 kilometers to the north of Cairo. Urabi was the son of a village leader and one of the wealthier members of the community, which allowed him to receive a decent education. After completing elementary education in his home village, he enrolled at Al-Azhar University to complete his schooling in 1849. He entered the army and moved up quickly through the ranks, reaching lieutenant colonel by age 20. The modern education and military service of Urabi, from a fellah, or peasant background, would not have been possible without the modernizing reforms of Khedive Ismail, who had done much to eliminate the barriers between the bulk of the Egyptian populace and the ruling elite, who were drawn largely from the military castes that had ruled Egypt for centuries. Ismail abolished the exclusive access to the Egyptian and Sudanese military ranks by Egyptians of Balkan, Circassian, and Turkish origin. Ismail conscripted soldiers and recruited students from throughout Egypt and Sudan regardless of class and ethnic backgrounds in order to form a modern and national Egyptian military and bureaucratic elite class. Without these reforms, Urabi's rise through the ranks of the military would likely have been far more restricted. Protest against Tewfik. He was a galvanizing speaker. Because of his peasant origins, he was at the time, and is still today, viewed as an authentic voice of the Egyptian people. Indeed, he was known by his followers as El-Wahid, and when the British poet and explorer Wilfred Scawen Blunt went to meet him, he found the entrance of Urabi's house was blocked with supplicants. When Khedive Tewfik issued a new law preventing peasants from becoming officers, Urabi led the group protesting the preference shown to aristocratic officers. He and his followers, who included most of the army, were successful and the law was repealed. In 1879 they formed the Egyptian Nationalist Party. He and his allies in the army joined with the reformers, and with the support of the peasants launched a broader effort to try to wrest Egypt and Sudan from foreign control, and also to end the absolutist regime of the Khedive, who was himself subject to Anglo-French control under the rules of the Caisse de la Dette Publique. The revolt spread to express resentment of the undue influence of foreigners, including the predominantly Turco-Circassian aristocracy. Parliament planning. Urabi was first promoted to Bey, then made Under-Secretary of War, and ultimately a member of the cabinet. Plans were developed to create a parliamentary assembly. During the last months of the revolt, it was claimed that Urabi held the office of Prime Minister. Feeling threatened, Khedive Tewfik requested assistance against Urabi from the Ottoman Sultan, to whom Egypt and Sudan still owed technical fealty. The Sublime Porte hesitated in responding to the request. British intervention. The British were especially concerned that Urabi would default on Egypt's massive debt and that he might try to regain control of the Suez Canal. Therefore, they and the French dispatched warships to Egypt to intimidate the nationalists. Tewfik fled to their protection, moving his court to Alexandria. The strong naval presence spurred fears of an imminent invasion. Anti-Christian riots to break out in Alexandria on 12 June 1882. 1 month later, despite French demurral to participate in an open assault, the British warships in the harbour opened fire on the city's gun emplacements after the Egyptians ignored an ultimatum from Admiral Seymour to withdraw them peaceably. In September of that year, a British army landed in Alexandria, but failed to reach Cairo after being defeated at the Battle of Kafr el-Dawwa. Another army, led by Sir Garnet Wolseley, landed in the Canal Zone, and on 13 September 1882 they defeated Urabi's army at the Battle of Tel el-Kabir. From there, the British cavalry advanced on Cairo, which surrendered without a shot being fired, as did Urabi and the other nationalist leaders. Exile and return. Urabi was tried by the restored Khedivate for rebellion on 3 December 1882. He was defended by British solicitor Richard Eve, in accordance with an understanding made with the British representative, Lord Dufferin. Urabi pled guilty and was sentenced to death, but the sentence was immediately commuted to one of banishment for life. He left Egypt on 28 December 1882 for Ceylon. His home in Haloluar Road, Kandy, is now the Urabi Pasha Cultural Center. During his time in Ceylon, Urabi worked to improve the quality of education amongst the Muslims in the country. Zahira College, Sri Lanka's first school for Muslims, was established under his patronage. In May 1901, Khedive Abbas II, Tewfik's son and successor, permitted Urabi to return to Egypt. Abbas was a nationalist in the vein of his grandfather, Khedive Ismail the Magnificent, and was deeply opposed to the British occupation of the country. Urabi returned on 1 October 1901, and remained in Egypt until his death on 21 September 1911. While British intervention was meant to be short-term, British forces continued to occupy the country. The British instituted the ousting of Khedive Abbas II in 1914, after which Egypt once more became a sultanate and also a British protectorate. Britain finally recognized Egyptian independence in 1922, following the Egyptian Revolution of 1919. Urabi's revolt had a long-lasting significance in Egypt as the first instance of Egyptian anti-imperialist nationalism, which would later play a very important role in Egyptian history, especially under Gamal Abdel Nasser. Urabi would be regarded as an Egyptian patriot and a national hero. He is also considered an anti-imperialist hero in Sri Lanka. Legacy. A suburb of New Orleans, Louisiana, was named Urabi, in solidarity with his revolt against the British occupation. A main street in Cairo's Al-Mohandesan district and its underground station bear his name. Urabi Square honors him in Alexandria. The main square in Zagazig contains a statue of Urabi on a horse, and its university's emblem bears his picture. A coastal road in the Gaza Strip is named Ahmed Urabi Street. Urabi Pasha Street in central Colombo, Sri Lanka, is named after him. The Urabi Pasha Cultural Center preserves his former house in Kandy. Quotes: "How can you enslave people when their mothers bore them free?" The references. Once a governor of Egypt punished a non-Muslim wrongly. The case was brought to the Caliph of time, i.e., Umar ibn al-Khattab. The Muslim governor was proven to be wrong. Umar told the non-Muslim to punish the Egyptian governor in same fashion. After it, Umar said, "Since when have you considered people as your slaves, although their mothers gave birth to them as free living people?" Kanz al-Amal, Volume No. 4, page No. 455. God created us free, and didn't create us heritage or real estate. I swear by God, that there is no God but He, no bequeathing, no enslaved anymore.